The Query Wizard gave us a good head start, but it doesn't reveal the wealth of options that are available when pulling information out of the database. For full control, you'll want to start using the Query Design view. I'm going to go ahead and open up the query that we started in the last movie, and I'll just double-click on it here in the navigation pane. Now, if we come up to the View menu, you might notice that we have an option here for SQL View. Queries in Access, and indeed many other database programs, use a language called Structured Query Language, or SQL. Feel free to take a peek at what that code is by selecting this option here in the View button. This is the code that the wizard created for us in the last movie. Now, if you know SQL, you can type in and modify the query here. Or you can use the graphical user interface in the Design view. Let's come back to the View button, and this time we'll switch our view to Design view instead. Now, the top portion of the screen displays a view of the tables that we're pulling data from, and gives us some information about how those tables relate to one another. You can think of this as a mini version of the Relationships screen, and it functions just like what we saw back in Chapter 2. The bottom half of the window down here is where we tell Access what columns we want to see in the resulting query. In the wizard, we had chosen the guest's first and last name, their check-in and check-out dates, the room number, name, and rate fields. And we're seeing the results of those choices here along these columns. In the Query Design view, we can use these columns to calculate additional columns of information based off of the data that we're storing. Because many of our guests stay for multiple days, I'd like to see their total charges. First, we'll have to determine the length of their stay, and then we can multiply that by the daily room rate. In order to do that, I'm going to come to this first empty column after room rate, and I'm going to click here on this first box at the top of the column. And you can see that this is in a row called Field if I look over here on the far left. In the Field box, I'm going to right-click and choose Zoom from the options, just so it'll give me a bigger place to type so you can see what I'm typing. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and change the font as well. I'll press the font button and change it to 16 points. Now, the name of the column that I want to create is called Length of Stay. I'll follow that with a colon to tell Access that this is going to be the name of the column. The data that I want to see in the column is going to be the formula of the checkout date minus the check-in date. And I can just go ahead and type that out. For the value of the checkout date and the check-in date, Access is going to take a look at the data that's appearing in these other two columns that are named check-in date and checkout date. When I'm ready, go ahead and press the OK button, and the text that we just typed in will get applied to this column. Let's create one more column over here to the right. And once again, I'll right-click on it and say Zoom, just so I have a bigger place to type. This column, I want to calculate the total charges. Once again, I'll name the column Total Charges and then finish that with a colon. And then the formula is going to be the length of stay multiplied by the room rate. When I'm done typing that in, I'll press the OK button once again, and that text gets applied to this column over here. Now I'm referring to the length of stay column that we're calculating here and multiplying it by the data that appears in the room rate column over here. When I'm done, go ahead and press the Run button up here on the ribbon to see the results of our calculations. Now we can see facets of the data that weren't initially apparent. The length of each guest's stay and their total bill are values that will certainly be important for the Landon Hotel managers to know. Keep in mind that we're not actually adding any data to our database here. We're simply processing the values that we do have stored in new ways and revealing an additional level of detail. Before we consider this query complete, I want to change the total charge formatting here into a currency value so that it matches the room rate formatting. In order to do that, I'm going to switch back again to the Design view. I'll come over to the far right and click into the column that's calculating the total charges. From there, I'll find a button up here on the ribbon called Property Sheet. When I click that, I'll get some different properties for the column of data that we have. And one of those properties is for the format. If I click in here, I can see it's a drop-down menu, and one of my options is currency. Let's go ahead and change that, and I will close the property sheet, and we'll review our query results one more time. Now I can see these are formatted as dollars, which looks a lot better. Let's go ahead and save our query. I'll press Ctrl-S on the keyboard, or you can come up here and press the Save icon on the Quick Access toolbar.